What's up, Taiwan? I'm Joyce with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. More than 1,000 demonstrations took place Saturday in cities across the U.S. against President Donald Trump and his ally Elon Musk, the world's richest man.
I think it's important to speak up. I think silence is not an option. I think you have to stay engaged. You have to stay vigilant. I think it's not only for our community at large, but the world at large. I think that enough is enough.
It's done. I mean, the guy is completely out of control. And to see this country just melt down in such a quick and just nauseating way, it's just crazy.
The day of protest was called Hands Off as demonstrators accused Trump of executive overreach and seeking to undermine American institutions and the rule of law. They also objected to the role being played by Musk, whose Department of Government Efficiency has overseen cuts of more than 200,000 government jobs. Demonstrations were also held in several European cities, mostly attended by Americans living abroad. Leading Taiwanese tech figures have reportedly advised President Lai Ching-te not to reveal his hand too early when negotiating with the U.S. A meeting at Lai's official residence included the likes of Acer founder Stan Shi and reportedly a senior TSMC executive. Taiwan's government has been scrambling to respond to U.S. President Donald Trump's 32% tariff on most of the country's goods, a policy it has called strongly unreasonable. The cabinet has also confirmed that Joseph Wu, Taiwan's top security chief, is in Washington, D.C. for talks through special channels. In light of Trump's sweeping tariffs, the cabinet has also met with the central bank and finance ministry to discuss how to safeguard the economy. It's already announced a $2.6 billion package to support local firms. But will this be enough to protect the nation's prosperity? For more, earlier I spoke with Xu Wentai, an economist at Academia Sinica. Can you break down for us what kind of position Taiwan is in to negotiate with the Trump administration on these tariffs?
I mean, I've heard lots of criticisms on our government because our politics is very divided. But I have to say that lots of criticisms are actually not fair. Let's just say the very, very big picture is that you just put Ukraine in the perspective. What Trump did to Ukraine is ugly. How? Because it's like you can totally just like say, okay, if you don't listen to me, right, I'm gonna just pull out all my security support. The Taiwanese, of course, you kind of wonder like, what's the morality of this president? If your security is very heavily supported by the U.S. and without their help, there's really like a very dicey situation. And how much bargaining chips do you have, right? Now, of course, people will say that TSMC and the semiconductor sector is our bargaining chips, and that is totally agreeable. And whether it was a mistake to say that the TSMC announced this big investment just a while ago was a mistake, that is debatable. The really bargaining chips here is that we are a sovereign country. For example, number one is that how much you're going to control or intervene the exchange rate, right? So that's central bank. And so that is something that, the US hope us to do, but we don't have to do as they wish, or we don't do as fast as they wish. And so in this case, it's like this is one of the bargaining chips.
And how urgently should Taiwan be negotiating with the U.S.?
At this point, is that this is a very big shock. The 32% is certainly unimaginable. If it's implemented, it's going to be a very big shock to the economy. Something that's very important here is that it is a matter of timing that President Lai should talk to Trump directly. Even that's going to anger China, right? But I guess, Trump is happy. I mean, China is not afraid of anyone, not even China. So if Lai is willing to talk to Trump, right, at a certain point when the government is ready, then the government should do that.
In the meantime, the cabinet has announced a support package for industrial and agricultural sectors. For now, Taiwan's most valuable sector, chips, are exempt from these tariffs. But for non-chip sectors, what can they do?
So this is very unfair to them. And they're facing very big obstacle here with the tariffs. Trump is using their trade deficit, our trade surplus, right, to calculate the tariffs. But most of this trade surplus is created by the ICT industry and the semiconductors. So who got hurt the most is those non-chip industries and non-ICT industries. Number one is that the government has to bring this tariff down one way or the other. That's the bottom line. Second is that, of course, right now the firms understand the risk of exporting to the US. They will have to look at other markets such as Japan and Europe. The rest of the world have incentive to collaborate, right? So you have to really expand their mutual trade other than the US.
That was Xu Wentai, a Taipei-based economist at Academia Sinica. At least 18 people have been killed in a Russian missile attack on a residential area in Ukraine. The dead include 9 children. The attack took place in the city of Kryvyi Rih, the hometown of Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelenskyy. Local emergency services said at least 50 people had been injured. Russia's defense ministry said the attack was targeting a military gathering, but Ukraine's military rejected this explanation as misinformation. Taiwan's defense ministry is currently conducting large-scale computer-based war games. It's the first part of the annual Hanguang military exercises, which simulate an all-out attack from China. The second part, consisting of live-fire drills, takes place in July. Now, to learn more about the drills and how Taiwan is improving its defense strategy, Jaime Ocon spoke to Dmitry Alperovich. He's a geopolitical analyst based in Washington, D.C., and author of World on the Brink.
When we look at how far the annual Hanguang drills have come, what are you most happy to see in terms of the improvements to Taiwan's defense strategy?
Well, the thing that I'm really pleased to see is the focus on coastal defense, the incorporation of the Harpoon anti-ship missile drills, the incorporation of HIMARS that can target ships near shore. That is really, really important. Look, the Air Force is unlikely to play a big part in a realistic war with China. The reality is the runways and the maintenance facilities and the fuel facilities will likely be the first ones to be targeted. But you can absolutely target the ships that are trying to cross the strait, the landing craft that are trying to land on the beaches and port facilities. And that is really, really important to see. Beyond that, air defense, China has the world's largest missile and rocket arsenal. So air defense is going to be very stretched. So looking how it performs in those realistic scenarios is really important.
And a big emphasis this year in Hanguang is this concept of decentralization. How important is that in terms of a conflict?
Look, most wars are not won by generals. They're won by colonels, majors. They're making decisions every single minute of every single day on the battlefield. This is what happened in Ukraine. You had a lieutenant colonel that was defending the Hostomel airport just outside of Kiev that took initiative and decided to bomb the runways to prevent the Russian airborne from landing on those runways, from being able to reach Kiev, from being able to decapitate the government. Had that decision not been made by an individual officer who had no orders to do so, we would have potentially had a very different scenario, a very different outcome in Ukraine. So being able to delegate authority to those individual commanders, not have them wait for orders, look at an opportunity, look at a target, and take decisions whether to destroy critical infrastructure that the enemy might use or whether to destroy their own forces. Very, very important. Now, at the same time, you need to have clear rules of engagement to make sure that they don't trigger a conflict by firing first. So you need to strike the right balance there.
And it looks like it's not just active soldiers that are participating in the drills, but also reservists. What role would you want them to play in an actual war?
Well, I think for the most part, you want them to play a supporting role for China to know that if they actually manage to get a lodging established on one of the beachheads, that they're going to face a force beyond just the 100,000 or so that are active duty, but potentially 1 million that are in reserves, maybe even more that could be conscripted as the threat level rises. So really, really important for them to know that this is an operation that would be the largest in the history of the planet.
That was Dmitry Alperovich, geopolitical analyst based in Washington, D.C., and author of World on the Brink. Taiwan has unveiled its first domestically made sea drone, and the military is now looking to use it for operations in the Taiwan Strait. Jaime Ocon has more.
This is the Endeavour Manta, Taiwan's newest unmanned service vehicle, or a sea drone. The ship can communicate with troops on the ground, fire torpedoes, all without the need of a captain or a crew.
我们的摇头系统是自行研发，不会受制于别人。自行研发可以自行的扩展它的功能。
Taiwan's defense ministry says it's now assessing how advanced this new technology is and whether it can be used by Taiwan's military.
目前都在研议中。那未来的建军备战主轴就是以科技取代人力，火力取代的传统兵力。这个部分我们会纳到我们国军未来建军发展的主轴。
This push for unmanned systems is part of Taiwan's drone strategy, which aims to develop and produce thousands of different kinds of systems. That includes drones that fit in backpacks, some that can take off vertically, and now some that can operate in the ocean. Officials say the move toward drones is motivated by what they've seen in modern warfare.
乌克兰呢，他利用他的无人船去攻击俄罗斯的黑海舰队，他的马克洛夫海军上将号可以把它破坏掉。
Last year, Ukraine used a similar drone to attack a different Russian naval ship, and given threats from China, Taiwan is looking at lessons from the war in Ukraine. While the Taiwan Strait has some of the roughest waters in the world, this sea drone is tailor-made for the region.
这么小的船一般是不太能够在水面耐这么大的浪即便它都做成水密的状况，所以变成三体船之后，它们可以比较有效的耐浪。
Officials from the U.S. have encouraged Taiwan to turn the Strait into a hellscape if China decides to attack, not only protecting the lives of its soldiers, but providing an effective deterrent. And with this new sea drone, Taiwan appears to be taking another step in that direction. Fu Hua Hong and Jaime Okan in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
A museum in Tokyo is offering its visitors a trip back in time with a wide array of vintage gadgets. Chelsea Wu has the story.
In a corner of central Tokyo, a unique museum devoted to vintage cameras and telecom technology. The Extinct Media Museum showcases everything from Betacams to floppy disks and classic Sony gadgets, offering visitors like 59-year-old Mika Matsuda a nostalgic journey into the past and a reminder of the everyday items that once shaped their lives.
本当にこの世代生きてきた人たちが見ると、なんか自分の人生がこうフラッシュバックするというか、なんかあの時私こんな感じだったよね、こんな楽しいことやってたよねっていうのもここに来てなんか思い出させてもらえるみたいな面白い博物館だなっていうのを思いました。
The museum, open since 2023, was founded on the belief that eventually all media gadgets will die out. Its mission is to preserve these gadgets, including this Path Baby camera, which dates back to 1922. But what really makes this museum stand apart? Visitors are welcome to touch and hold all the displayed artifacts. The aim is to promote a complete sensory experience.
見ただけじゃ絶対重さはわかんない。こんな重いんだ。こういう風に担ぐんだとか、まあ結構機材って匂いとかもあるじゃないですか。こういう匂いするんだとか。得られる情報が段違いに多いので。
The museum regularly accepts donations from visitors like 56-year-old automobile designer Hisashi Ito, who bought in a small handheld clock and cassette tapes from his personal collection.
で、それで、まあ、どっちにしろうちで自分で持ってても、そのまんま多分、まあ、例えば自分が死んだら多分そのまま捨てられちゃうと思うんですよね。それよりは人が見て楽しんでもらえる方が、なんか有効活用かなと思います。
By inviting the community to interact with the gadgets and to donate their own, the Extinct Media Museum not only preserves outdated technology, but also offers a space where forgotten items come back to life. A reminder that even in a digital world, analog memories still hold a timeless charm. Scott Kuang and Chelsea Wu for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us for What's Up Taiwan. Finally, we leave you with images of elderly cats enjoying retirement in South Africa. I'm Joyce. Take care and see you next time.